Alright, so the purpose of this video is for tech support, operation support positions to get a little more familiar with some of the ways that Python is set up on development machines, because you may have to support these machines and you normally aren't using Python in your daily position. So this is not an in-depth look at Python. This is just how you might find a developer's PC and how to work on it without changing things around, as that would be bad in a development situation. I've tried to script this a few times and it always came out confusing because of the term Python being used as a command, an interpreter, a location, being from different sources, Microsoft, the Python Software Foundation. Oh, it's also used as the name of an organization, and also from Anaconda. I decided to just redo the whole video from scratch as an over-the-shoulder tech support training. So there's some unexpected things, and some of it seems long and confusing. Just bear with it. So first, let's take a look and see how the different packages of Python from different sources may be installed. Typically, Python scripts, when you run it, the command is just Python. And it's a little confusing, and I'm going to try to make it less confusing by, when I say Python for the script, I'll say Python script. The interpreter, I'll say Python interpreter. For Microsoft's Python, I'll say Python from Microsoft. For Python from Python, which is the confusing part, I'll say the non-Microsoft Python. Then when it's the Python that comes with Anaconda, I'll just mention Anaconda. So bear with me, it might get a little confusing. I've re-recorded this a few dozen times with different scripts, and nothing makes it less confusing. So let us break this down first by looking at Microsoft's Python. Typically, when you run Python as a command, it'll try to load the interpreter. If it's not there on a Windows machine, Windows will take you to the Microsoft Store to get the Microsoft's version of Python. Now, this is actually the same Python. All Python's the same from all different sources, but the way Microsoft's is different is they sandbox it. It's a little more protected. It's shielded from your drivers, can't reach your network. This is fine for most Python scripts. Typical thing to do here is just click install. You'll automatically get the latest available version. What sometimes happens is you find that this is not the version you need. You might actually need an older version, and since you're already in the store, you'll go find an earlier version. I'll go get 3.11. I'll install that. I find typically this is how people end up with multiple versions of Microsoft's Python on their Windows machine. Alright, so that's installed. I'll just close this. When you type Python now, it'll actually run the version 3.13. But what about the 3.11 that we ran? Let me exit this Python prompt. If you type Python, oops, spell it right, Python, and I'm gonna say -- version, I can see that it runs 3.13. If you wanted a different version, and it is installed, like 3.11, you can just type 3.11 right at the end, and it'll run 3.11. If you try to run a version that's not installed, let's say 3.10, it's not recognized. Now, this is not how I would set up a Python environment myself by running the version number, because that means you have to change every script to run that version. Or you could set up a pointer or a shortcut, or not a shortcut, I guess a batch file or something. But then you'd have to set up a different one for every script that ran a different version of Python. The typical way, you might want to set this up, and again, there's different ways to do this, so this is not the one all-encompassing way to do this, but this is just something that I do that I think it's simple. I think a lot of people do this. Let me go to my test folder and do this really quick here. You can see the test folder has test 1, test 2, test 3 in it. Let me go into test 1. And the way to normally do this, I've seen a lot, is create a virtual environment using the Python version you want. So if you typed Python, it will use the latest installed version you have, and you load the module VENV, which is the virtual environment module for Python. It will create a Python virtual environment using the version of Python you used to create it. So I'm going to call this VENV. So this is another confusing thing. A lot of Python scripts now use VENV as the virtual environment name inside the folder their scripts are in, not to be confused with the actual module name. We just happen to call it the same thing. We could change this to anything we want. We would call it Py313, just so we know it's a virtual environment of 313. I'm actually going to call this 311, so we know that it's a virtual environment made with Python 311. But how do we actually use 311 for this? We actually type 3.11 and hit enter. Wait a few moments, waiting for it to create. Okay, when it's done, you can go into the folder and see that there's now a folder right where we were called 311, and it has a configuration file that is running Python 311 and actually points. It's a really long path here. Let me see if I can make it fit on screen. Here we go. It actually runs the Microsoft version of Python 311. Close that config file. But if we type Python version, it's still 313. So we have to activate it. To activate it, there's actually a scripts folder with an activate batch file. Yeah, the batch file is the one I think we need. And we can run it by going into the folder. In this case, it's py311 scripts activate bat, and running the activate batch file, you can see that your prompt is prepended with py311, which is the Python 311 virtual environment, active only in this window for now. And if we do a version check, it is now running 311. So this 311 will run every time you run the Python command. So you can also make a 313, 310, or whatever version you want in a different window. Just remember to always activate the virtual environment before you actually use it. So that's the Microsoft implementation, or the basics of version control in the Microsoft implementation of Python. All right, something I forgot to mention. So I'm just recording this and placing this at the end of each of the videos. Is I just take this for granted, I guess. In my setup, I don't have any default path statement or variables for Python. And what I mean is, unless I'm actually running a Python environment, there's nothing in my system referencing Python. That may not be the case for machines that you look at, especially if you're troubleshooting a problem, because the problem may be started from these variables. So let me quickly explain. In the Windows machine, if you go to the command line and type set, you'll see a lot of system and user variables that have been set or imported into your session. If I look through this list, and you don't have to go through this whole thing, but there's nothing here referencing Python, even though I have Python set up. There's something called a path statement also. To isolate that, I'll just type echo %path%, and you'll see the path statement. This is the list of folders that will be searched if you run a command that isn't found in the folder you run the command in. If you run any command, the command is not right in your folder that you're running the command, it'll first go through Windows System, then Windows System, WBEM, Windows System 32 PowerShell, and so forth. There's nothing here that shows Python by default. If you are troubleshooting another machine and you do see a Python path there, and it's not the version of Python you're expecting, that could be one of the problems. Now, on the other side of the coin, if you're actually running a Python environment, whether it be from Microsoft or the non-Microsoft version from the Python Software Foundation, or even Anaconda, you might actually add a path. Let me show you. In our case here, I'm going to use the test1 folder and activate the Python 3.1.1. And it doesn't matter whether it's from Microsoft or not. When I activate it, let me make this a little bigger, and you see that you're in the Py 3.1.1 environment. If I run set, look at my variables again, I see now I have two new variables called virtual environment and virtual environment prompt. The prompt is mostly cosmetic and is responsible for allowing the setup of the prefix on your prompt. The virtual environment may be a variable used by other scripts and Python to tell you where the virtual environment is. But the one that is important is the path. In the path, it's now been prepended by the location of the virtual environment. So it's added this dtest test1 Py 3.1.1 scripts. And if you look in there, that is where the Python interpreter is located for the virtual environment. So if you're having issues, that's one place to look. Let's move on to the next one.